Okay, in this lecture, we're going to be talking about the Protestant Reformation. And with the Protestant Reformation, this just refers to the time when people were breaking away from the Catholic Church and they were reforming religion. Okay, so it's a breakaway from the Roman Catholic Church and the formation of the Protestant religions or the Protestant Christian religions. So the Protestant Reformation can be defined as a religious revolution in Europe during the 16th century, and it's aimed towards certain doctrines of the Roman Catholic Church. But the name Protestant actually derives from the meaning time of protest. So you have that word protest, you can see in the stem of Protestant. So it was people protesting issues with the Roman Catholic Church. So there's a couple of things that drove the Protestant Reformation, and one of those is that the spread of humanism during the Renaissance and the emphasis on individualism and curiosity. Individuals were encouraged to practice their faith on their own. They didn't necessarily have to be connected to the Roman Catholic Church in order to be spiritual or to have faith. And a lot of the reformers wanted to remain Catholic, but they just wanted to improve upon the Roman Catholic Church. But the Roman Catholic Church will take extreme measures. They're going to persecute their opposition. This sometimes comes in the form of excommunication, which means kicking out of the church, not allowing them to participate in church. And by excommunicating somebody, according to doctrine, you are making it so that they can no longer receive salvation. Some of the early reformers were burned at the stake, and then some reformers will flee and establish their own churches. So you have a lot of different, several different Protestant sects that will form at this time. So if you look at this map right here, it kind of just shows the different religions that spread starting around the 1600s. So this was in 1600s, the different European religions. Now this looks much different than earlier Renaissance when mostly everything was Roman Catholic. So you can see in the Scandinavia area, you have Lutherans, and then you have Calvinists, mainly in Scotland, Anglicans in England. You have Roman Catholics that are predominantly in Spain, Portugal, the Spanish Netherlands, France, Italy. And you have Roman Catholic with also Protestant minorities. You have Orthodox in Russia, that's in pink there. Remember that there was a split. The Great Schism was that split between the Roman Catholic Church and then what became Eastern Orthodox. So Russia is Eastern Orthodox. Then you have your Muslim countries down to the southeast. So that's kind of the makeup of Europe during this time. So there are different causes to the Reformation. I'm going to go through these. You'll have to add to this outline and just add details as I explain each of them. So the first cause of the Reformation was political. Basically, some rulers resented church courts, those courts and groups of people that ruled the church, and the church claim of supremacy over civil authority. Like the church had the final say in all matters. The Pope was viewed as a foreign ruler with a growing sense of nationalism. So some people started to feel a certain way towards the politicalness of the church, that the church shouldn't have authority in terms of, judging a certain court case. The economic cause of the Reformation, a lot of people envied the church's wealth. Business people especially viewed the church tithe as a really heavy burden, and the church was not secret about their wealth. You can look at the cathedrals that were built from the Middle Ages moving forward, and you have these vast, very, very expensive cathedrals being built with beautiful stained glass windows, tall spires, and so the church is very outwardly wealthy. Another cause of the Reformation is the intellectual side, and the Renaissance had new ideas, and this helped contribute to the Reformation. During the Renaissance, the emphasis was on the individual and individual expression. And this encouraged people to seek a more direct relationship with God. You can have a relationship with God outside of the church. You don't need to go through a priest or a pope in order to have a relationship with God. It's just between you and God. There were a lot of church abuses during this time, and those are highlighted down below. First is worldliness. You had popes and clergy that had a very, very luxurious, materialistic life compared to the lives of the congregation they were serving. Um, Nepotism. This is appointing relatives to church offices, regardless of if they are qualified for those offices or not. Sometimes you'll see different world leaders being accused of being nepotists. So, if somebody is a leader of a country and they appoint their own children and their own family members to positions within the government, that is seen as nepotism. It doesn't matter if that person has experience in a certain area, they're going to appoint them just because of their loyalty and their family ties. And so, again, church offices during this time were going to family members of popes and clergy, and that is called nepotism. The third is called simony, and you can remember simony, it's selling something. So, it's selling appointments to church offices. So, people would pay to have certain roles or certain jobs within the church. And again, that's called simony. So, remember simony with selling. And then lastly is the sale of what are called indulgences. This basically, if you sinned, you would pay the church, and the church would accept the money for that sin and say, okay, now you are pardoned from that sin, you are forgiven. This doesn't require true repentance. It just requires basically you to pay off someone anytime you do something bad. And so these are the four abuses that are going to be addressed with the Protestant reformers. You also had the decline of church prestige, and during this time, some people lost respect for the Catholic Church because of Babylonian captivity. And Babylonian captivity refers to a period when different popes lived in Avignon, France, under the domination of French kings. So they are kind of living um, different popes living together and still having to be under a king's authority. So people saw that as a decline in kind of the prestige or the power of the church. And then we've already talked about the Great Schism, and that's when different popes uh, each claimed to be the true pope and struggled for church supremacy. That splits the power of the Catholic Church, and that's where we get the Eastern Orthodox and the Catholic Church. So you had a very central authority, and during the Great Schism, they split due to various reasons, but that's going to cause a kind of decline in the church authority.